Well, hello and welcome back to Dear Soul Auntie. I'm Lisa and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Zainab.
Hello, hi everyone.
How are you, Zainab? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really well, Liz. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Glad to be back as usual. Happy to be back on DSA. And I've got a lovely question from one of our viewers that has come in, and I think it's a really good topic for us to sort of break down and look into. So the question is, what if our triggers are not just happening to us, but for us? So what do you think about that, Zainab, as a question?
I think it's an excellent question. And I think also very relevant in the time that we live in, where, everything's a trigger warning, people are being gaslighted, all that business. So I feel like it's a really, really great question. And like I said, really relevant. So yeah, I'm excited, to get my teeth into this one. This is a good one.
Excellent. Okay, so should we break it down then in terms of what actually we're talking about in terms of triggers? In my mind, I think it means, in any relationship that you have in your life, that could be a working relationship, through your career. It could be, an intimate relationship with boyfriend, girlfriend, man, wife, or just friendships in general and family. Yeah, so this kind of covers the spectrum of our lives. So when we're triggered, it could be that someone has a way of bringing things up in us. It could be in how they are with us, their behavior towards us. It could just be you feel that you might feel that they are condescending or saying certain things to upset you. There's various things, but what it really means is there's a feeling. It's triggered you. It's a feeling that comes up. Um, for you to, and you react to it, because there could be triggers throughout your whole day, but really what it boils down to is it's bringing about an emotional response, from you, be it anger, sadness. So if you're being triggered and you're actually feeling a certain way, what should you do, or what does it mean when we're triggered in such a way that we actually feel something happening and we can't control that feeling?
Okay, so in my mind, with regards to, we'll come back to the control, the feeling in a moment, but just to begin with, when something creates a big reaction, not necessarily even a big one, a reaction in us, it is about us.
Yeah,
And I think that is almost a novel idea, because I think often we're told, somebody's triggered you, the words have triggered you. Movies will have a trigger warning. So in a way, we're almost like we're kind of being shielded from our triggers. But what I believe is that we should be welcoming our triggers, because our triggers show us where inside us that we're not okay.
yeah,
So it is not, and this is not to say that there are, if somebody's triggering you, that you need to be friends with them because it's all about you and it's not about them. But there are some relationships that are not good, and then they're not, that you shouldn't be having, and that you should, if you feel, walk away from. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, however, if somebody says something and then I have a big reaction to it, it's not about the other person. And if I don't want to be friends with that person, that's a whole different thing. Don't be friends with them, that's fine. But what I have to realize is that whatever that person has said, I always liken it to like having a stick. So imagine you have a sore point. Let's say your self-worth is your sore point. The person that triggers you is like the person that's holding the stick that's going to poke you in the place where you don't feel well. So what
mm,
you can say is actually, so and so poked me and they're not good and I don't like them. Or you can look at, because the stick holder, the one with the stick that's poking you, is could be first your mum, could be your colleague at work. So if you get rid of that one person that's holding the stick today, somebody else will come with their stick another day. So what I suggest that we do is that we look inward and go, actually, what is this pain that is being poked by whoever's the current stakeholder, and it's not easy,
No,
and it
no, absolutely.
requires, yeah, it requires introspection, it requires inner work, it requires taking responsibility for ourselves, and often, it's not a nice feeling, and it's not something that we want to do. However, it is really, really worthwhile, because once you do the inner work, I start to notice, actually I'm having this reaction because I don't feel good. In that awareness, you started your healing work, you've
Yeah.
started the inner work, that's massive progress.
Yeah.
Instead of saying so and so is done this to me and it's their fault, and as long as, if they were not here, then I'd be fine. So it's really important work, but it's not easy.
Absolutely. I mean, you brought up a couple of things there to do with us looking within ourselves, to understand that, okay, this person has triggered me. You're becoming aware of the fact that the person has triggered you. And through that, you have more of an awareness, an understanding of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So you understand yourself and you realize, okay, so it's not about that person. There's some insecurity or something within me that is making me feel this way. So as you said, taking responsibility. So taking the onus off the other person or off the other situation onto yourself is taking responsibility for yourself, for the way you are going to react to, this event happening. And, on the other, I wanted to bring in something else I thought about as well, and something that we spoke about in terms of people being in our lives for a reason, to help us on our journey um, towards healing and accession, general, basically to become more aware, more conscious. So we actually move in our spiritual level, if you like, up a notch, because we've come to the realization that, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be learning something here, because life at the end of the day is a learning journey, isn't it? We're here to experience and to learn and to go through certain scenarios and situations in life that will bring us to greater understanding and wisdom of life in general. Okay, so if we have various relationships within our life where we're constantly getting triggered, I think you put um you knocked the nail on the head earlier when you said, I think this was in a previous conversation, when you said, okay, so if you're going to block that person because they trigger you and that person because they trigger you, and you're going to block out the whole world because, and you won't grow. You're not going to develop, and that is really the bottom line of what we're all here to do, is to grow and develop and learn and become masters of ourselves. How do we master ourselves if we just push everybody away who gets on our nerves, or we don't, not necessarily that we don't like, but who have a reaction for us? So in my mind, there's two ways of thinking about this. Yes, internally, we need to accept that we have this thing coming up and become aware of it. And rather than trying to just push it down or blame the other person, we acknowledge that it's something within us and it's a learning experience that that person has brought into our life for our higher good at the end of the day.
100%.
So, I think it's really key and really, really very important that we acknowledge that if you are someone who's saying, well, okay, it's not about them, it's more about me, and I need to understand why I feel this way, and not that I have to do anything specifically about it, but I need to be aware that it's more about me than them. That's a massive step, as we said before. That is a huge step. Most people don't do that. They sort of blame everybody else, and it's my mum's fault, it's my dad's fault. They did that to me when I was that age, or whatever, and that doesn't help you in any way, shape, or form. So I wanted to ask you as well, Zainab, in terms of the actual, if we go back to the actual trigger um, word and what actually happens, what would you advise somebody to do if they feel triggered, and what's the next step in the awareness process, do you think?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on like how much of a trigger this was. So the bigger the trigger, it shows us there's a lot of work in that area. But if it's a smaller trigger, then that's a different thing. If, for example, you've had a big reaction to somebody saying something to you, for argument's sake, but you've got to the stage, the first stage is to realize that this is about yourself. If you've made that big step and you've been able to connect those dots and realize it's about you, that's massive. That's the first thing. The second thing is then to sit in this and to be aware. So one can maybe do a reflection, like write something down, maybe journal, and say, because often when we start writing, things come up.
Mm,
To sit in the feeling via meditation, via chanting, writing it down, taking a walk in nature, just to see what happens, inquire about it.
yeah,
So that can be really helpful. But also, in the first instance, when you first come to that realization that something has triggered you, it may not be that day that you're able to put two and two together and get four. It may take time. So that you may have the awareness one day, and then it might be a few days later that you're able to be like, oh, this comes from that. Or so not wanting to fix the problem or to fix yourself in any way, just let things be. So being aware is the first step. Journaling, writing about it, talking to somebody. I had this experience today and it made me feel this way. Just really giving yourself some time to marinate in the feelings that came up. Just being aware, this is how I felt, this came up. And expressing it in some way, whatever feels good for you, and then being aware of it, because chances are it'll happen again. The second time or third time it starts to happen, you're going to be really sharp and you're going to notice, aha, that's happened again. And your insights may come the second time, the third time, but eventually it isn't as sharp. It doesn't have as much impact on you. The pain is less, and you're able to then get more insight. So I think there is no quick fix, and actually you don't need to be fixed. You already are okay. You already are whole. It's just being aware of the patterns that we repeat, and like Lisa said, sometimes these things happening for us, people are coming into your life to help you work on these knots that
yes,
bind you.
yes,
So
absolutely,
actually, believe it or not, you'll come to a point along the journey where you're going to be grateful for the triggers, because they show you what you can't see. They
yeah,
are the shadow work. So somebody triggered you, it made me feel this way. You need to know that feeling's inside you. So
mm,
what they're doing actually is pointing to where you have your vulnerabilities. So actually, that's really good,
yeah,
because if you don't know you have that vulnerability, then how do you work on it? You can't. So it's actually, in my mind, happening for us. And that's not to say it's easy. It's hard. It is really hard at the beginning, but it does get easier and softer and less sharp and less painful. So I think I've kind of digressed and forgot what the question was, Lisa.
no, no,
But
you answered it very well in terms of, what are the steps we should go through if
yeah,
we feel
yes,
triggered,
yes,
because
yes. See,
a lot of the time, and you said it, you said, at the end of the day, we can just understand what's happened. If I mean, there's two ways to look at this as well. You said understand what happened. That may not happen. That may not happen immediately. You might have to just take some time with yourself and think about, okay, this has just happened and it's triggered me, and I need to understand what's in me, what's come up in me, and the reasons why. You might have to go through that process. Um, and I think eventually you get to the point, and it depends on if you responded or not. Sometimes, someone triggers you for a response because they know that, there's certain things they can say to you, and you will maybe get angry or fire back with another sarcastic comment or something like that. Whereas, true mastery of these triggers is not to respond.
Mhm.
And maybe it's a process of understanding what comes up within you, not necessarily controlling it, but knowing that no response is the best response. Because in that way, it may have triggered a feeling in you, but it hasn't taken over you and your mind to the point where you have to respond sort of clap back, if you like, with another sarcastic or something comment, to retaliate, let's say. Okay. Because a lot of the times we beat ourselves up later on and say, oh, I should have said this. I wish I'd said that when that person said that to me. Or I wish, I could have come back with something really smart and sarcastic. But life just doesn't, it just doesn't work like that sometimes. And most of the time, it's probably in your own best interest. And I can say, not probably, I believe it is in your own best interest to not respond at all. And be present, because what in being present and understanding that, okay, this person said this to me, I now understand that it used to bring up, and it still may bring up something in me, but I don't have to respond. I can deal with it internally. I can say, you know what, I'm just going to shine the light on this and just say, and just smile and just say, yeah, you know what, you're totally right. What will happen in that situation? 9 times out of 10, everything calms right the way down, because at the end of the day, you just quelled that whole trigger moment, and so it brings about like a nicer feeling within yourself, rather than feeling emotional and upset or anything like that. You actually feel, you know what, I dealt with that really well. It started to trigger me, but I got present and I brought the whole situation back down, and I feel good about it. So going forward, it's a way of mastering yourself. That's what I feel. That's what I really think. Um, so I do believe it's a process of being aware of how you're feeling. Not to say that you have to deal with it in a specific way, like you have to go away and get counseling or anything like that, but just understand why, potentially why that's brought something up in you, and then know that you don't have to respond in any way, shape, or form. You don't have to come back with any comment. You don't have to retaliate. You don't have to walk away. You don't have to do anything in that moment, apart from stay present and smile, because you are experiencing life. You're experiencing what you're here to do, which is, be triggered and learn how to deal with it.
Mhm.
Simple as that. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
Um,
That school of thought around, not responding, keeping it within you and managing your presence within the moment.
I think that's all excellent, Lisa. The only thing I would say is that sometimes it takes a while.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
in
Oh,
my
yeah.
own
Yeah.
yeah, in my own journey, I found that when I was first able to accept that the person had triggered me, but the bad feeling was inside me,
Yeah.
I would sometimes respond. Sometimes it was like trigger, response, done. Then 2, 3 days later, realize, oh, okay, I got taken over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then as time that it might have taken a week for me to be like, that's what happened that day.
Yeah.
And then the more I was able to do this, there was a less of a gap between the event, probably the response too, and the realization, aha, I got taken over again. And as time went on and I got better at this, the gap got smaller. So trigger, maybe there was still a response, but
Yeah.
maybe like half an hour later, I had
Yeah.
realized that
Yeah.
I got taken over.
Yeah.
And then there came a time where trigger, need to respond, would like to respond, know that I shouldn't respond, but I respond anyway.
Mm,
In
mm.
the knowing, I responded anyway. And then eventually, as you said, it's mastery. As time went on, now I'm at a stage where I can not respond, and sometimes it's painful to not respond. It's like I want to say
Mhm.
it, but I know, but I know it's
Yeah,
it's it's for my own good, and that it's just my ego and like this anger that wants to respond, and it's yeah. So it's a slow journey, but certainly, absolutely, you don't need to respond because it's not about them. And if anything, thank you to them.
yeah,
Where I am
yeah.
now is
Um,
it's I really personally I want to see where I need to do the work. I want to know. So if I'm triggered by XYZ, I need to know so then
yeah,
I can look at this, because
yes.
my priority is my inner peace and my inner joy and my inner happiness. And the more I deal with this stuff, the more peace, the more joy, the more happiness I have. So I want to know where my blind spots are. So if you look at it that way, where are my blind spots? What's keeping me from my highest light and my highest peace and happiness? And if I can't see it and you've come into my life to show me, well, thank you very much. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely,
But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it is having that, awareness of why people are in your lives, in our lives in general, and a lot of the time they're here, we're here for them, and they are here for us. This is a kind of like a contract that we've all kind of signed up for in this life. Now, I don't want to go too deep into that side of things, but bringing it back to the trigger, I think we've covered it really well. I believe we've given a few of some of the process that we actually go through as humans around, understanding when we're being triggered, actually just acknowledging that fact to start with, and then the process of, working towards like a mastery level where we don't respond. Okay, we acknowledge there's a feeling that has come up within us, but it's not bothering us in any major way. We're able to smile and continue in the conversation or within the scenario, whatever it may be. And later on, you might feel like you want to reflect on something that did come up, but in the knowing that at that moment you were able to be present and not retaliate. And I think that is really key. Um, Going back to the question of what if the triggers are not just happening to us but for us, absolutely they are happening for us. They're happening for our growth, for our development, for our, as you said, to bring about more peace and joy within ourselves, and to grow into who we're supposed to be. So I think in that respect, it's a definite yes from me. So yeah, I think we've covered that off very well. I think we could probably carry on talking about other areas, but for this episode, I think we're good.
yes, I think so too, Lisa. And I just think we can't control the outside world. We can only control what happens inside us. And but the good news is we can. I mean, we're everything we need is inside us. So you don't, all the tools you need for your healing, for your shadow work, to work through this stuff is inside you already. And
Yes,
there's power in knowing that you have the power, you have the resource, you have the skills, you have the intuition, you have the insight inside you. You are all you need. And to even to realize that is amazing and a really, really magical thing. So I do hope you found this episode helpful, and please do share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
exactly. Thank you very much, and see you all soon. Take care. Bye.